But this is especially exciting because it's our last event of the week. And I think we've had a really awesome week. I don't know if you guys have been able to attend some of the other events, but we had a yoga class, we had an open mic night, we had a cooking class and a fitness class, and we've managed to raise thousands of dollars throughout the week, which is just incredible. And so we're going to be able to start construction in the community center very soon. I'll share my screen and tell you a little bit more about the project. By the way, my name's Katie, and I'm part of the MaSCA team. So for those who don't know about MaSCA, MaSCA stands for the Mathare Slums, the Mathare Slums Community Association, and we founded in 2018 when Charles and Idris and Nina and Kareem and Lucas and I were all in Kenya at the same time working in Mathare. So Mathare is an agglomeration of 12 villages in the city of Nairobi. And they're informal villages in the sense that there's a lack of land security, as well as like sanitation systems and electricity and all the basic urban infrastructure. So the majority of the residents are experiencing poverty and living hand to mouth, and there's a lot of lack of basic human resources like food and water and healthcare. So we decided to create this team in order to bring resources to this community that Charles and Idris and Lucas are from. And we officially registered this year, but we've been active since 2018. So our mission is just to build off the community initiatives already happening in Mathare. And those community initiatives range from health and hygiene to education, economic empowerment, and cleanup and tree planting, anything that contributes positively to the community's environment. Our main programs have been the Children's Lunch, which has supported or has provided 1,600 meals to youth in the area, these lunches have taken place in the community center. So there have been activities, arts and crafts, painting sessions, and it's always a really fun time and a safe space for kids to come together and to grow and develop. We've also worked with a lot of volunteers from around the world when they're visiting Nairobi and working in the community garden, supporting the local organizations with whatever tasks or projects they're working on that day. We provide technical assistance to organizations through mentorship, helping with data collection, or helping, develop, accelerating their projects. And the main project that we're fundraising for during this Mathare Community Celebration Week is the Kanako Community Center that we want to rebuild in 2021. So this building has been around since the 1970s. But unfortunately, last year, the building burned down due to an electrical fire, and the community is now without a community center. And so it's even more urgent than ever that we rebuild it. We want to do it in a way that's sustainable, that's safe, that will have 2 exits, and make sure that we're going to put in a rainwater collector to make sure that any future fire could be put out. And we've been helped in the design of this project by the community, a committee of community members who are really dedicated to this on the ground. So this is something that the community has been asking for years now, and we're excited to be able to work on it with them. And these are some drawings of the community and the community center that we envision. And yeah, like I said before, we've been lucky to raise a couple $1,000s this week, and it would be really great if you could share this opportunity with people in your family or your friends and invite them also to donate to a really good cause. Thank you so much for being here, and hope you have a great painting class. Charles, do you want to say something too? No, he said earlier that he wanted to.
Oh, I think I'm all right, Katie. You have gone through everything. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to say thank you maybe for everyone who has made this class happen in the week, and let's have fun.
Cool. With that, we'll pass it over to Riyaz and Harjan.
Are we on? Yep, I think we're on. Thank you very much, Katie and Charles. I appreciate everyone on behalf of MaSCA for attending. I think we had a really good, brilliant week with all these eventful events. And to top it off, we'll end it off with the paint night. I know a lot of you guys have been looking for hobbies to do during this COVID pandemic, and I hope painting can be one of them. It has been for me. I'll introduce myself. I'm Riyaz, born and raised in Kenya, moved to Canada 9 years ago, and now currently in Ottawa. I stumbled into MaSCA, and ever since then, I've been volunteering with them. And it's been a great cause because it touches home for me. And I'll introduce you my colleague over here, who's our IT department, and my cheerleader, Arjun. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, sure. Go in front of the camera.
You have to be in front of the camera now.
At one point, I guess.
Yeah, you have to eventually.
Hi, everyone. I'm Harjan. I'm relatively new to MaSCA, I guess. Ironically, my introduction to MaSCA was through a paint night at the James Street Pub. Who knew I was me hosting one sometime in the future, like a year later. But yeah, no, I'm going to be hopefully answering all your questions or feeding all your questions to Riyaz through the chat. Just some ground rules, I guess. Maybe keep yourselves on mute. And if you have any questions, just throw in the chat so I can relay them to Riyaz. Other than that, yeah, no, I guess I'll post up the link to where you can donate as well. And yeah, just enjoy the paint night. Riyaz?
Yeah, thank you very much, Arjun. I see some familiar faces there, which I'm very happy to see. All right, okay, so we are doing a Kenyan themed artwork here. And this is a Masai Mara picture that was taken by a gentleman in a blog that I downloaded off. And I think I love it very much because as well, touches Kenyan roots. Quite simple to do as well as beautiful. Who doesn't like sunsets? I don't know. So I think it'll be a nice piece to gift or even just hang it up on your wall. Acrylic paints are quite easy to deal with and not as messy, not that hard to work with. So I think what I'll do is I'll start by giving out some instructions in terms of preparing yourselves. I think I see already people with their canvases set up, which is awesome. For those who don't have the canvases, put it in a nice, comfortable area where you can work. Nice, good enough lighting, ventilation if you need. Have yourself a nice table so you can put your palette there, your water, just keep your drinking water and mixing water separate. I think for the guidelines, when we sent them out, we mentioned that we'll be using red. This will be used a lot, as you can see, for the sky. We'll use a little bit of white, not as much. Green we won't use as much because everything is still wet from the bottom down. So we'll have a little bit of blue to add onto the clouds to have a purple effect for the cloud background. And then yellow to have a mix of red and yellow to give it an orange feel. And then black for, of course, the highlights. I know there's some people there that have done art at a very professional level or amateur. I want to make this as pleasurable for everybody. So if there is any questions or anything, as Arjun mentioned, feel free to put them on the chat. I'll walk and talk at the same time.
And maybe we'll add some fun little tidbits as well.
Yeah.
Paintings.
We'll put some little bit of fun facts over here and there. I'm not Bob Ross, so I don't have a squirrel with me to introduce you to. But I guess without further ado, we can start painting. So I have my plate over here, which I use quite often to acrylic painting. Not the best for oil because you need to mix mediums and all that. Acrylic is quite good to use in terms of, quickly doing the paint work and dries out at the very night. So once you start mixing and blending, you'll have to be pretty quick in terms of, having that wetness still available to allow us to paint. So I'll try and do it as quick as possible, but then if I'm going too fast, let me know. And if you can't see something, we can all zoom in closer so you can see the details. I have my water here. As you can see, it's been used quite often. And then I have 3 brushes that I mentioned on the guideline, whereas I have my flat, a little bit messy here, but I have my flat 3 1/4 inch wide brush, which I'll use for most of the backgrounds and the big areas. So it's quite fast to spread paint around with this kind of a brush. I have the medium brush here, which is good for medium-sized detailing and the tree trunks here. As you can see, we'll use them for the tree trunks and stuff like that. And then the small one here that we'll use for the smaller little finer details here. And the tree trunks of the background here. So these 3 brushes can come in handy very, very much. And for people who have extra paint brushes that are, if you bought a pack, there's this beautiful paintbrush that I love to use, which is called a liner, that comes in handy pretty often when you're doing small little details for the trees and all that. Not necessary for this kind of painting right now, but if you have it, you could use it. And then this beautiful thing here called a fan brush. So this thing comes in handy when you're doing mostly landscape. So like little grass over here at the background that you could use to just brush up so that you can have that effect. Not necessary for this painting, but if you do have them, feel free to bring them out and let's use them. I have my napkin here so that we can wash our brushes and wipe them down. I prefer using a napkin because once you use a rag or something and you put it in a laundry, it might get mixed with other clothes. Now I want to show you a trick on how to study a picture that you want to do, a subject.
Yes, before we go, we got a question.
Oh yeah.
Someone's asked if they have dark brown, not black. Is that okay?
Actually, no. I prefer using brown better than black because it's not that intense. So brown is fine. You can use that as a background or the silhouette side of things. If you do have black, we'll probably use it more often on this side here. But if you have brown and you want to mix it for the clouds, feel free to. Worst case scenario, brown will not look as bad when you're using it on the silhouette side. You won't. It's fine. So when you're looking at a subject or sort of a landscape or whatever you want to do, you first have to kind of figure out the colors you might need. You got to color map your areas. Rule of thumb for acrylic is that you always want to do light first and then do your dark after. So I think the most lightest color over here would be yellow. So what we're going to try and do is paint the yellows first, fill them into the background here. Doesn't matter, we don't have to be that critical because we'll layer it over and over and over and things will get covered up. So there's no mistakes. Play around with it. Doesn't have to look exactly like this. Like you could draw a tree the other way, the other direction. Who cares, right? Like it's your painting. You should be proud of it. And there's never a perfect painting, to be honest. So feel proud, and it's something that people call the artist's curse. You always are touching up things. You're like, oh, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. But So color mapping, I want to show you, so like light, you do light first, the yellows, and then sort of the yellows at the back over here. So we'll try and fill this out with yellow. There's sort of sections over here with yellow, and then come later on with orange to fill in the other spots over here, and then dark red on these sides over here. And then we'll sort of kind of blend them all together. And then we'll come back and do the clouds, which at the foreground, a little bit of purple and brown, or even mix a little bit of black. Black is very, very strong for acrylic, so we have to use very, very little. I'll show you how we mix and, blend in the colors as well. And then the last but not least, we'll do the bright yellow for the sun. And then we'll come in, we'll do the dark afterwards. What else did I want to say about painting? Yeah, and for those who are not comfortable or have problems scaling things, always feel free to bring a pencil in, try and scale out this painting so that okay, I want to terminate this black line somewhere over there. My tree trunk is kind of coming this way and covering all this area. Actually, I should bring a pencil over with me. Maybe I could show you. Oh, you have a pencil, Arjun? Okay, give me a minute here, guys. I want to show you guys all the tips and tricks. All right, I got a pencil. All right, so I got my friend over here. So, like, the pencil doesn't really have to be that dark. It's slowly, just work our ways. So I'll do this for the purpose because I know that there's kids and amateurs as well. So yeah, I don't want to use amateur, but not professional painters. Beginners, yes, that's a better word. So I want to show them tips and tricks, and if there's anything that you don't know, feel free to ask. So we want to scale this out and sort of kind of have our layout. So it doesn't have to be perfect at all. Oh, right, sorry. So we'll do that as a background for the grass over here. We'll sort of kind of map out the sun maybe there. And then we'll have the tree sort of coming in this way as well. This will get covered anyways, but we're just using this to kind of scale out our drawing. That's the tree trunk there. The other trunk's coming in over there, and that's going to be the other tree right there. And then the other tree there. And then sort of kind of map out where we want to do the clouds right there. I know this looks pretty stupid right now, but trust me, it works. And it kind of gives you an idea of where things will go. It's very, very ideal to know how to scale if you want to try and fine tune your drawings to make it look realistic. And to help you out, you always have to sort of sketch it out first and then put it on. All right, I'm going to stop talking here and then I'll start and try and mix the colors. I have my palette here, so we'll need a lot of red, so don't feel shy. I'll put in some red. I usually put my colors all around the borders of the palette so that when I'm mixing in, I bring them in. We'll need a lot of yellow as well. You can put that right beside the red because we'll mix both of those colors quite often. And then a little bit of blue because we'll need to do some purple highlights on the clouds. I know that's not a little bit, but oh. And then a little bit of black. And what else do we need here? Some white for just maybe the sun. We'll try and highlight that so that it pops out, so it's not blending in with the rest of the yellow back there. So the thing with acrylic, as I mentioned before, it dries pretty quick, and I've just introduced myself to oil paints recently, and I was quite mind blown because I'm someone who likes dealing with reworking my work and blending it 5 million times over and over again. So acrylic, you have to be very decisive. I'm not a decisive person at all. I keep changing my mind every now and often. So the thing with acrylic is that I try and put as little as possible and then top it up after as much as you want so that it doesn't dry out. It shouldn't in this short time. We're going to use very little water because I want this canvas to be thick, the layering to be thick, and the colors to pop out. So the only time I'll use the water is to clean my brushes, and maybe a little yellow just to, you know, help the black, darker colors to spread across. So make sure all your brushes are wet and clean. Make sure your canvas is clean as well, even though I just had some pencil on it, but you know, make sure it's dry, not dusty. So pretty much this is my palette right here. So as I mentioned, I'm going to do yellow first. So with a little bit of light and the wetness from the brush, like it's okay to have that little bit of thinness of the acrylic. You could always introduce more paint. Make sure your brush is nicely coated with paint. Don't worry about it mixing around with other colors. Like, we're not professionals, no one's gonna judge us, no one's gonna pay us. But I want you guys to be proud of your painting. So the beauty about this thing is that it just spreads paint more faster and it's perfect for horizontal applications. Skies usually are, you know, horizontal, so you want to blend going left and right. So I'll start by doing a little bit of the yellow. You can go over the actual markings on your canvas. It's fine as long as now you know where things go. You can top up your yellow as well because this is a little bit light. Feel free to crisscross so that the paint is going everywhere. And from that line, even if it goes below, we're going to be using black anyway, so it's going to cover up everything. And then you could just go in a little bit of here. So a little bit of yellow at the top of the ear, a little bit of yellow at the back, at the bottom of the clouds here, a little bit of yellow just around the sun. So we'll start by that. See, like, it doesn't have to be perfect, just go with it. And the reason why we use light first is so that, oh, I didn't need yellow here, you can always come up and put your purple or blue or whatever you need after on top, and you won't conflict with the colors. And you can go ahead and do that. And, if you feel like your brush is not spreading the paint, like, go crisscross, and like you'd release all that paint from it that's hiding in there. At first, it always looks messy until the job is done, so don't worry about it. Is everyone seeing everything okay? Like, is it bright enough? Can you hear me well?
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, there you go.
Some nice yellow on our canvas.
Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, so I just introduced a little bit of red into the yellow. If you feel like it's too much red, feel free to bring some yellow and mix the orange. Now you can see the color changing there. So we want to go with light and then dark. So we'll try and make this as light as possible. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like, this is why I was going to say we need a lot of red and yellow, because we'll blend it quite a lot.
Riyaz, what inspired you to make this painting today? What about this painting or this scenery?
Just because it was easy to do. No, well, my number one thing to kind of paint is landscapes, and kind of capturing that beautiful sunset moment and beautiful colors. and also the fact that it's Mathare. I wanted to do a painting for myself to kind of remember, Kenya by. And quite often I paint stuff that, means something to me, like aside from Ottawa, aside from bands from BC, like anything literally. But this actually does pretty well for me because I love the colors, the red and the black silhouette. And then, so now we've got the orange loaded up in there. We can always mix more and sort of bring it to that same consistency of color. So from yellow, we'll go out dark. So this will be orange, a little bit of orange there. So don't feel shy to go over like this. Just get the paint in there and then we'll blend later. And then very, very lightly just go left and right. And you can already see those streak marks coming in. So like have just the tip of your brush, just go very gently over the canvas so that you can get those marks over there. And a little bit of paint goes a long way because you have a wet brush as well as the wet canvas on it. So like you could touch up a little bit of areas here and there, and then just blend. And of course, we'll build it up more and more depending on which areas we are. So now I want something a little bit more darker. So I'll just bring in some of the more darker red and make it. Oh, that's way too much. Always add more, top up more, just go nuts. The beauty about acrylic painting, it's much cheaper as well. Well, not as cheap as watercolor, but a fine in between watercolors and oil. And it's quite cheap. So you can buy them in bulk and it doesn't break your wallet.
I guess oil painting can get destroyed a bit easier too than acrylic.
Oh yeah, because oil paints, to preserve them, you have to use like varnish after 1 year, 6 months to 12 months. So like you have to use a lot of medium and additives to oil to help it preserve. But acrylic, you paint on it and you're good, and it's very flexible. It's polymer, so you can. So now we'll go with a much darker orange, as you can see now it's darker here. Try and just fill in areas here. You can see I'm doing the crisscrosses over here, so because I want to push the paint out of this brush because it gets stuck right in there, especially when you're not using that much water. And then keep doing that. Don't feel shy to go all the way. You can always come back with more yellow and top up this areas and then blend the other way. There's no rules at all, but the one rule that I stick by is the light and dark. First do the light always, and then do the darker after. All right, so now I think I'm ready to hit the high note with the red, but I want to use up all this orange that I have here. Feel free to put a little bit of water if you see it's not going too far, or you don't have too much paint with you. I'm just going to fill it in spots here. Oh, and you can go across the border as well if you guys have a pre-stretched canvas on a wood. You can go over the border if you want to be ambitious or creative, and if you don't want to frame it, feel free to. You could go way past beyond this point so that when you hang it up, it looks good. I necessarily don't do it, but you guys are always welcome to. Like, so I've done orange here, go all the way, feel free. Just gonna use up what orange I have here and fill in whatever I don't, whatever is empty. There we go. All right, now let's go to the bright red, or brilliant red is what they call it. Now this is very dark, so what I want to do is, since I've already got most of the insides filled, and I want to come from the edges being dark, I'd rather start from the edges first, and then work my way in. Like I'll dump all the paint there, so that it's not all in one spot. And then later on come there, like that. And now you can see the transition from the orange to the red to the yellow. Likewise here, we're not necessarily going to stick to what the picture is. We'll to a certain point, but then be creative. Like if you want the sun to be a little bit higher, do that. If you want to add some birds afterwards, feel free to. Like my advice for this, since it's so simple, you're more than welcome to scale sort of a elephant, use it as a stencil, paint over it. It's an open world.
Yeah, do you know there's over 500 different types of bird species in Mathare Mara?
Ooh,
So,
I did not know that. 500 different types of species?
yeah, birds.
Wow. Oh, Arjun, did you know this this tree is called an acacia tree, and it's quite the meal for giraffes, and they're very prickly.
Mm-hmm.
And giraffes' tongues are long enough and strong enough to not be damaged by those thorns. The acacia tree is acacia tree is basically the Kenyan pine tree.
Kenyan Christmas tree?
Yeah, there you go. And then there's the baobab tree as well, which you find quite often in Kenya as well. For those of you who have been to Kenya or know Kenya, that's where you get the mabuyus from. It's like oh no, I mixed a little bit of black there. If you mix a different kind of color, just wash your brush and then just clean it off on your paper towel. I recommend paper towel better than rags. I know I'm not being environmentally friendly, but it'll be worth it when you save your clothes. I'm going to top up a little bit more of the red. As I said, you're going to use a lot of it. So don't worry about the black there. It might actually help us on the borders, make it darken. So yeah, a little bit of red there. So now I'm going to start filling in the voids first and then blend after. How's everyone doing so far?
Everyone seems to be painting away, so they look good to me.
Oh, beautiful.
No questions in the chat.
Yeah.
I eventually want to see what's that.
Oh, yeah, following along well.
Oh, there you go. So
Maybe I'm going to do a quick intermission. Looks like my battery count is a bit low.
okay.
Maybe I'll just stop the video real quick. Yes?
Yeah, no worries. So just start filling in the spaces and then, yeah. Once you catch up, I want to see your paintings.
You guys maybe show up?
No!
Okay.
All right, are we back on?
There we go.
Welcome back. Now that you guys have your commercial intermission.
Intermission, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to get ahead of you guys. I was like, nah, I just want to paint. cover my mistakes. But you can always go over a million times and do as many layers as you want. And so eventually, like for skies, how I mentioned, like usually you'd have the horizontal. So at the end, once you've pushed in your paint onto the canvas, go over. Don't worry if it skews out a little bit. We can always come over and fix it up. But also, it kind of adds to the effect of what you see here, of those little lines coming in there. So that's where this brush comes in handy. It's like you can use a lot at the same time. So that's okay. So I think what I'm going to do now is, see, this is the art just because I keep fixing things. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll try and mimic the clouds, which is on the more foreground area, or actually we can even do the sun after. So it's a very darkish, reddish, purple kind of color. So I want to keep a lot of red in there and just mix a little bit of blue. So I'll try and scoop a little bit of the blue, red there, and then a little bit of, with the side of my brush, just a little bit, because I don't want to see how much already that has overpowered it. But don't worry if it is a little bit too much. You can always add red to it, more red. Like I'll probably need to add more. And even if it is dark, who cares, right? Like nobody needs to know what you painted it off of. You just be like, yeah, that sky was really, really dark when I went to MaSCA.
Sorry, what were those two colors? What are you mixing right now?
So I'm mixing red and blue to bring out a purple effect. I'm trying to mimic what was on the picture. And I'm trying to make it more of a reddish violet color. So just a little bit of blue actually made this darker. You can see a little bit of purple color coming in. So it's very, very dark and very, very powerful. So you have to use only a little bit. So I'm going to use most of my red that I already have there, kind of lighten this up. You can always use a little bit of white to lighten up as well. So you could just mix it around and then scoop it right back into the middle. You can mix it. People have these things here, the spatula, to mix colors better so that it doesn't do this. But I don't go by the rules. It comes in good when you want to mix colors and you want to keep it, very fine and not having any additional colors in it to skew your color coding. So you can use this, which is very good, and it is very handy. I use it for oil, but acrylic, nah. But if you want to use it, please do. It'll keep your messy colors way more tidier. Like you can see mine, it looks like a mess already, but that's okay. Like, doesn't affect this painting as much because we're going to be going over, or you can always clean it up. All right, okay, I think I'm done mixing over here. So I'm going to start on the insides first, because that's the darkest areas over here, and then slowly work my way up. So we're basically just filling in the areas where it was white, and then we'll try and feather the edges over here so that we get a nice cloud line. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It can go over, it can go just below, or even cover some of the beauty about this is the fact that whatever is above that you've already painted, it can blend in and add to the color mix, make it look like as if it's background of the light hitting Like shadows, bring the shadow effect. And keep spreading your paint around with a crisscross sort of movement so that you can spread your paint, especially with this flat brush and acrylic as well. If you feel like you don't have enough paint, feel free to use some water, not too much. Because the thing with acrylic is that it creates white spots on your canvas. It's not like watercolor where you actually are supposed to use water. Like I feel like since acrylic is quite plasticky, it goes well when you just use it alone on its own. But again, that's me. So I'm going to add in a little bit of characteristics of the sort of the clouds at the bottom over here. But as you can see, it becomes darker, and then a little bit of reddish color that highlights the clouds at the end, and then some dark highlights of the yellow. The reason why I did yellow at the top was because the yellow you can see over here at the top. So what you can see now that I've tried to sort of blend that in so it looks like as if it's this sort of highlights here. Doesn't have to be that way. Just do the cloud, and then we can even add the highlights afterwards. So I'm going to do a little bit of I'm going to make it very light. I'm just going to add some little bit of details in there. It doesn't have to be that bright and dark. It could be one of those little clouds that's about to evaporize away. Some more paint. And then just add some little bit of fluff in there. Just to bring it characteristic, you know, make it look nice.
Riyaz, have you ever been to Mathare?
Yes, I have actually, but didn't get to enjoy it as much because I moved to Canada.
Do you spend time with the tribes then?
No, I didn't.
Tribes?
No, like, so if you want to recuperate, sorry, Arjun, I'll get back to you. Like to recuperate some of the paint that has dried, which is why I mentioned it dries as well. So when you're trying to clean your brush, like clean off the excess water and then just go over it again, and you'll resurrect some of the paint that has dried. So you can spread it around a little bit more. Areas like these, which you see their white spots. We're trying to cover up all the white areas. There you go. Okay. So, as I mentioned, there's a little bit of red. So, I'm going to add some, like just very lightly tap it in, add that red color in. I'm going to add some more red on my palette. So yeah, Arjun, well, is Mathare Mara actually called Mathare Mara because of the Mathai there?
Yeah, it is actually.
Oh, tell us a little bit more about that.
You want to know more about the tribes people there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the people of Maasai tribes are semi-nomadic. They live in the game reserve, like Mathare Mara, or national parks like Sangari National Park in Tanzania.
Right.
So what they do is they coexist with the lions, animals, whatever animals that they live there, but they herd cows and goats as well. So a big part of their lifestyle is moving cows and goats between the land for greener pastures,
right,
as they graze.
Pretty much quite big nomad forest, right?
Yeah, semi-nomadic.
Semi-nomadic, right.
Yeah.
And
just interesting side note, they're also one of the tallest people in the world. They have an average height of 6'3".
oh,
Yeah.
wow,
So,
that is awesome. So what I'm doing right now is basically adding a little bit of red at the base over here, and I'm adding it first and then blending it to the wet cloud above. So like I'm not putting too much pressure. I'm just literally feathering it so that it doesn't mix up the other colors as much. And then as well, like you can still do those crisscross shapes, which is such a beautiful technique. And where there's white spots, you can fill in the little bit of paint that's on the white spot areas there, and then feather it down. And happy little friend. Okay, all right. So I'm just mixing it with the remainder of the purple there, so that now I can come just below, because like you gotta, one thing about painting is the fact that you have to learn about light and shadow. Where it's dark, what's light. The sun being over here at the bottom over sunset, you'd expect the underside of the cloud to be with those highlights. Likewise, if I'm holding this plate like this against the light, you'd want to paint this dark and this light, so you'd have to mix your colors in that way so that you bring out those effects. That being said, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow just to the side of it, like the very side of the paint, so that I can come in and just tap it gently and then just go along at the base, and then I could drag it, tap, and then drag it along the lines of these clouds. You can always use a smaller brush as well so that you can have a nice perfect line. Just being lazy. You can see the highlights over there. More highlights on that underside of that cloud there. 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 There we go. Okay. Okay. So now we're gonna do the. If you guys want me to slow down, take a break, or if you want me to explain something much better, let me know. Arjun is keeping an eye on that chat interface. But that's all good. I actually want to see how your paintings are so far.
Yeah, so if you guys can hold up your paintings, I guess, to the screen, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. That is gorgeous. Nice. What happened there?
I was cycling through the people.
That's awesome work, people. You guys are doing it better than I am. If you guys want me to zoom into the camera or the canvas much more, let me know so you guys can see the little bit of details in there rather than seeing my face. I'm pretty glad and excited about how you guys' artwork is coming out. It's looking really good. So now what we're going to do is we'll do the sun, sorry. The sun, we'll start with yellow first, then depending on how it's conflicting against the canvas or the background, we'll add some white to it so that it brightens out. Oh yeah. So here's the, hope you guys can see that, but I'm going to use it more for my own reference there. It's a little bit on the center there. It's a little bit yay big. So again, like you don't have to use this brush. You can use the medium-sized brush. Actually, I'll use that so that's easier for you guys to. So I'm going to use the medium-sized brush and then mix a little bit of color in there. beauty about these things is that the fine point of your brush, the medium, the round tip, is that you can come in and do your perimeters pretty well, or in the lines, and so you can. The only thing about the round brushes is that you have not as strong or brittle, or as the.
Real quick.
As long as they can hear me.
Yeah, they can hear you.
So like the beauty about the round brush is that you can do the details, but the only downfall about that is you have to use water, and sometimes that can affect your transparency of your color. Are we looking, Arjun?
You're looking back online.
Do you have the charger for the other one, so we can just plug that in the meantime?
Nope, but this one's at 100%.
Okay.
You good?
So, as I said, with the round brush, since it's much flexible and not as stiff as the flat brush, you have to use a little bit of water so that you get some paint mixed in there. And then the brush is pretty miserable to have some hair in there that's left on the canvas. You can always go with this brush and just pick out the hair. Don't worry about the
What's
background.
the interesting thing about acrylic too? You can add textures as well. You can add
Oh, yes,
the
yeah.
material to add texture.
Like impasto painting
Yeah.
with very thick and textured painting. And that's the thing about acrylic is that you're not using so much paint. Oh, sorry, you're not using as much money to enable you to use a lot of paint. Whereas oil paint, you have to add some certain sort of mediums to have that effect.
Right.
With
Acrylic.
acrylic too. You can do that if you want the thick effect.
What's that?
I think Nina's off mute.
Oh.
There you go.
I added a little bit of white onto it that it pops out. And as well, like it doesn't have to be perfectly round. You can leave a little bit of the darker yellows on the side there, so it brings a contrast to it, shadow and all that. And okay, I think pretty happy with how this is going so far. Now what we can do is start doing the silhouette of the grass line right there, and then work our way up to the trunk. We'll go back with the flat brush, but we'll have to clean this up because we'll be using black. Not the biggest deal if it's not that clean, because dark is going to cover it up. The dark black is going to cover it up.
Nina was wondering what motion makes the sun round. I don't know. I think it's just you just draw
Circular
it's
motion.
circular motion, you know?
Well, you would do your borders first round so you can get the shape, and then fill it in slowly, working your way in. That's my best
Right.
sort of tip. Just like how I did, but this is more because of the fact that I had a lighter color in the middle. Usually you start from the borders, work your way in depending on the color scheme and all that. Like when you clean your brush, just give it a dab on your paper towel so it cleans off all that mess. And then now I'm going to be working on with this pen first. So I will move this right there. Okay, we're almost at the hour mark. All right, so black, honestly, this will cover up any of your mistakes on the canvas, especially if areas where you've gone below where you didn't want. Remember that line that we did? You can still sort of kind of see it from the background there, but how I mentioned, go over the borders first so that the darkest stays down, and then You can work your way up. Like that, and then it's just,
And you could go around the canvas as well if you want to get the.
yes, exactly. You can go around at the back there, on the side there, so it creates a kind of a 3D effect. I like that sometimes. I actually do that sometimes, but I usually make my own frames, so I don't worry about it too much. And again, you could also put painter's tape on the sides over here. I should have mentioned that way long ago. You could put painter's tape around the borders so that any paints you don't want on the sides can stay out and you have a nice border around it. But I kind of want to just show you guys ideas and tips and tricks on how to do a painting rather than the unnecessary details, which I'm sure most of you know, or in fact are even more creative than I am. So I'll try and fill in all those voids here, because pretty much my dark. It doesn't have to be flat as well. You can make some hills, which I'm going to try and do. So that's the beauty about art, is the fact that you can make your own world on it. It doesn't have to be a perfect straight line. But what I'm initially trying to do is just to fill in some dark, white spots where I didn't put any paint on it. And then
Is it sunset or sunrise?
something.
Or is it up to the
Up to the imagination.
Up to the artist,
basically.
What do you think?
All right. Okay. So here's a trick I want to show you guys. So see your brush. When you use this from the base and then work your way up, try to show you a better concept or idea of how to do this. So basically, you want your edge of the brush to kind of brush it up like that. I don't know if I got any paint on your camera, Arjun, sorry. Basically, you're trying to do this on your canvas, so you only get a few of the back bristles on your canvas. So that to mimic that fan brush effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it in an angle and then go up. Now you can make your grass. Since you already have paint on your canvas, you can brush it up. You can add a little bit of paint on it as well. Just feel free to dump more paint, but then we're just using the very ends of the edge. So you can start with where it's black already because it won't show, and then you can work your way up, and then see like little effects. Doesn't matter how high you go. Like grass is a variety of lengths.
Maybe the cows haven't got there yet.
Yeah, exactly. The Mathare haven't gone there yet. Mathare has still making their way there. And then whatever you have at base, work your way, blend it. If it doesn't go too well, maybe add some water. You can dip it all the way in, add some more black so that it's much easier to work with. And then you can go back again. You can also do it with the side of your brush, it's easier. Just basically the few brushes over here. And that also does the same thing, like that. And it's okay if you find some little bit of, this is such a nifty little trick from Bob Ross. And whatever is black over there, you could just sort of cover it up. And look at that, you have a grass effect. That's a very handy tip. And I was mentioning about the fan brush as well. I'll show you so that whoever does have a fan brush will know like the convenience of this. I'll just make it a little bit of, put some little bit of water. I'll dry it off. I don't want it too damp. And I'm just gonna do the tips of it, not too much, and then go up. A little bit more paint in there. And then look at that. It's like you can go crisscrossing as well to add a nice effect of wind blown grass. And a little bit on the sun over there. And then again, blend off the rest. Looks like a Lion King backdrop already.
Yeah, who's your favorite Lion King?
Simba, huh?
Oh, Simba? Really? I thought you were gonna say Rafiki.
Rafiki, yeah.
Rafiki.
Actually, Rafiki means friend in Swahili.
There you go.
So yeah, maybe. Maybe Rafiki is the right choice, actually. All right. Okay. So I think I'm happy with how this is going so far. Since the sun is a little bit still wet, drying out, what we can do is maybe start at the tree at the back over here. So the smaller the trunks and detailing, the smaller the brush. So I'm going to go with my smallest brush. It doesn't look that round, but the finer the tip, the better and more handier. But what we'll do is just do the trunks. We'll just do the trunks first, and then we'll use the this brush over here to do some little bit of effects for the bushy leaves over there. Same thing here. We'll use the fine tip brushes to do the branches and a little bit of the trunk. Same thing here. But then we'll use this bad boy over here to do a little bit of the effects for the trees. So how you use and put pressure on your brush is very, very critical in terms of putting effects and make shifting details and stuff like that. What did I say? Details. Thinking about work already. All right. So your small brush, make it as wet as you can. Because the thing about this brush is that you don't get a lot of paint on it, so you have to keep mixing it with paint and come again. And this is why paint brushes like these, which are very long and they're called liners, come in handy. They load up a lot of paint in it, and you can do very, very lot of detail while you're working your way. I'll do a little bit of trunks and stuff like that with it, just to show you. If people want to invest in more paint brushes, more paint, you can maybe invest in oil paints. You can know what these certain tools do. All right, so this small brush will go and mix a lot of water. Go with the black. Go with the black that already has water mixed in it. And what I'll try and do is if I'm doing a branch, I'll go horizontal to where you're pointing instead of doing this. I'd rather do that. See the difference between the line this and that? Like you always want to be horizontal to where you want to start and end. See the difference between those two? You can do very fine lines depending on how you hold the brush. Like once again, if you go down, you could do that. If you want to go very horizontal, you can do that. Another thing is once you load up your brush, like swivel it around so that you get a fine tip on it, so that the very tip is very brought in together and it's very fine. And then start. Doesn't matter how we go. Just okay. That means I need to add more water. If it doesn't go off of your brush, you need more water. With black, it's fine because black is such a dark color. If you put some extra water, it won't show the white spots. And since you already have a layer behind there, all right. So I'm gonna just do a little bit of wiggle on the tree to give it some character. It doesn't have to be perfect or exactly accurate to what I'm doing. We can also add certain branches on it. Add some chopped off trunk right there. More branches there. And since it's in the background, even if it gets a little bit skewed and messy, it's not as bad. We'll draw one. I'm going to make this my own unique tree, so I'm going to add one big. There we go. And you can, all right. And I'll show you what I was talking about, this thing here. Same thing how we did with this, going up. Now we'll poke on it like horizontally. So I'm going to wet this up so that there's not too much water, so you can dry off the rest of the water in your paper towel. And then you want to basically just have the tips of your brush with paint so that none of the rest of it's wasted on the, and then you'd want to hold it horizontally because the trees are pretty much spread across this way, and then we'll dab on it. Just in the middle, you can spread it around even more. I don't know if you can see, guys. And then you can gently press on it. You could apply some more pressure. And you could already show the effect of those twigs and all that stuff right there.
You know, saying the sun is still wet, and she's asking how do I paint over it? I mean, it'll dry pretty quick, I think, right?
Yeah, I think once you finish this this little tree right there, we should be pretty much okay to, because just the trunk of it goes a little bit over to side the sun. And as I said, you can always put your tree anywhere, literally, doesn't matter. So I don't know if you guys can see, but the little bit of effects of those branches and trees in the background on the sides, like it's doing such a good job. And you can fill in the insides with darker black if you want to make it dark. I'm going to leave it as it is. I could add on to so many details afterwards, on and on and on. Like I spend hours just doing that. But for the sake of just teaching you guys, as I mentioned, like once this video is done, you're always welcome to add more details. Make a stencil of a elephant if you want.
Rhino even?
Rhino as well, yeah. You can make a stencil of an elephant, stick it on your canvas, paint over it. No one needs to know you did a stencil. Yeah. Or you can freehand it if you're good. Like no one needs to know how you did it. So what I'm doing with my medium brush now is just getting a little bit of black paint there. If it's too hard to work with, as I mentioned, black doesn't show as much or doesn't cause transparency as much to the background of the canvas. So feel free to get a little bit more, make it a thin consistency. And then, all right. So remember that sketch we did? You can always do another sketch above if you guys are more comfortable doing it freehand. I'm just gonna go with it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm trying to kind of guessing that the trunk will go sort of kind of that way, cut through the sun, and then spread around this way, and the tree is just covering a little bit of the clouds there. The reason why I didn't tune or fine tune the clouds as much is because I knew it's going to be covered by the black trees, so I didn't do too much detailing there. Okay, so as I mentioned before, have your brush swiveled around so that you have a nice fine tip. Add more water if you want, so that it's nice and easy to work with. And then the idea is to have that fine tip so that you can know where your paintbrush is going to touch. I'm going to start from the base over here, work my way down. Add more paint. There's the other branch there. I'm trying to be realistic, but I'm not going to do all of the branches. Some of the big ones for now, and then maybe I'll show you how that liner paintbrush comes in handy. If you guys are having Lycos for that 25% discount.
I didn't know you were sponsored by Michael.
Yeah, not sponsored by Michael. I wish I was. And then you can add some a little bit of elbows on the eventually you'll have to make the for scaling purposes, you'd have to make the trunk bigger so that it's a sturdy tree, falling apart. Right from there.
So Riyaz, when did you realize you were good at painting? When did you? Did in school?
No, actually, we're from a very young age. My parents gifted me one of those, those plastic sets where you find like 15 markers, 15 crayons, 15 God knows whatever you could find. And like, I think it was just one of those things where, people, once they try it and they get into it, doesn't matter if it's art or whatever kind of hobby you do. It's just, I think I've always been good at visualizing things and kind of scaling stuff. So ever since a very young age, I've always been doing art. And up until today, I still keep up with it. And also, it's a matter of practice too, right? It's not necessarily a matter of being gifted with it. It's a matter of practice as well. I think if you'd ask me what's my best painting I've done so far, I would say it's the most recent one.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. Because, I've been
the most practice.
Right. And who knows, maybe tomorrow might be my other best painting. So like practice definitely does make things better. I also took in time to kind of go out of my way to learn and read about art.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite acrylic painter? Like someone who paints acrylic? And then I know Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
A lot with.
He does. Yeah, there's some other artists too, right? Who revolve around acrylic painting.
I think Andy Warhol. I think that's what everyone kind of knows. By
very popular, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any particular artist or favorite acrylic artist. I have a handful here and there, but nothing favorite. If you say oil painting now, that's a whole different ballgame there. But let's stay in the topic of the year. But yeah, you can do quite amazing things with acrylic, and such a nice medium to work with. Right.
A lot more accessible, right?
The
advent of acrylic paint in the 1900s.
Right.
Really democratized the art in a way where you didn't have to have like this expensive oil painting or all that time to let it dry and all that stuff.
Right.
Anyone can.
And it's quite recent too, right?
The first patent on the chemical, like the acrylic paint chemical, was in 1915 by a German chemist.
Okay.
And then acrylic paint became available commercially to be bought in the 1940s, 1950s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite late considering since how long people have been painting with watercolor and oil.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. So I'm just trying to fill in the remainder of the tree area where we don't see much detailing there. I'm just trying to spread around where the big chunks of the leaves are, and then come lower with the flat brush to fill in some of the areas to bring in that effect around the edges. And spreading in, like those crisscrosses comes in handy to kind of bring up that effect of leaves and branches and, you know, bunches of trees in and out, up and above and left and right. Like that kind of effect does the trick for trees at times, especially with silhouette. Okay, I'm going to speed this up and try and do with the flat brush and use a lot of water. Well, not a lot, but enough to have it quite silky consistency, so that I can go ahead and dab. Feel free to like move it left and right so that you can bring them those sort of. And then the same way how we did the lift for the, you can do the same thing. Like use the edges of it. You know, you want to have those little bit of dabs on that. And show a little bit of trees coming out of that, those branches there and here and there. Fill that in. Make it come down a little bit, move it left, right. Make it you know, random, interesting. But I'm not following exactly to this now, as you can see, but kind of mimicking as close as I can. If a little bit of it goes over, don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. You can see like those effects of those little branches out there, like coming in. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna do a little bit of that. Okay, we're almost there. So I'll show you what this thing does. This is very beautiful. Whoever does have it, fine. Whoever doesn't, I'd recommend, if you like painting, buy one of these, as well as the fan brush comes in handy. The beauty about it is that you can do really, really fine lines, and the thing about it is that it loads up so much of the oil paint on the brush, and it's very fine tipped as well. You can see the it's okay, don't worry. You can see the tip. There you go. Yeah. And to use this, you can go at the very edge and do that. You can forget these little fine little branches. That. It's just a matter of going up and over. This is just a filler to make it look realistic. You know, you get some small little branches here and there. One popping up over right there. Yeah. One popping up over there, you know.
Twigs that haven't been
giraffes yet. Exactly, there you go. Those giraffes have done their job over there. So you can even do a little bit of a twist and turn there. There. Some there, with that. Some there. Small little details like these that kind of, you know, make those wow factors. Like that. You can see, like, you can already see some of that nice kind of highlights coming in. You can also do that for the same on this here. Okay, so I'll stop using this for now because I did not really.
We did the rest of the painting. That's right. It might take us 2 more hours.
Yeah, and as well, I didn't really put that on my guideline, but I just wanted to kind of show you what this does, and whoever feels inspired to do more artwork after this, I'll be more than happy to recommend this brush for various applications. Okay, so now I think this is
drawing that brush or what?
commercial from Michael's. Okay, All right, so same thing with the small brush over here. We'll do the little bit of highlights of the tree there. Since it's so ahead or in front of the sky, you can see it's a little bit of darkened up with red or yellow, whatever you like. So what we'll do is just have a little bit of red and mix a little bit of blue or black to it, so that it just kind of adds that little nice touch to your painting. You can do it black if you want. That's perfectly fine as well. So what I'll do is, I think there was already a loaded black paint on this, so I'm going to just shove it there and then bring my red and mix it up nice and well. If it's a little bit too dark of a red, it's fine. That's perfectly normal. I mean, it's a silhouette anyways, but we're just adding some little bit of color and character to your painting. It'll look nice, and kind of want to show you guys as well. This is what oil painting is about. I need to stop talking about oil painting. This is what oil painting is, right? It's identifying colors, making sure it looks well, beautiful, you know, kind of looks realistic in a way. And when you're looking or referencing to a picture, so you have to kind of make sure it looks almost the same. Okay, so I'm sticking with what I have here, sort of a maroon color. Don't feel shy to make it a little bit more thinner water. As I said, this brush doesn't hold as much paint, but what I did last time, spin your brush so that you have a nice tip. And then I'm going to start from the base, going up. Yeah, that is a sign that you need more water.
That's scratching sound. Right?
Yeah, if it doesn't flow easy, it means you need more water. And some little bit of branches right there. Feel free to go back and forth as well. Like, as you can see from this, it's very blurry. It doesn't really show as much because of the sunlight just right in front of your face. It's a little bit of distorted in a way. And then you can make it however you feel like. Okay. So, more water there. How's everyone doing so far? Actually want to see what people's paintings are looking like before we stop this up. Give myself a little break and stand up. Oh, good stretch. Oh, look at that. It's busy, isn't there, huh?
Hey, Riyaz.
Did I hear somebody say?
Oh, look at Kevin's painting.
Man, Kevin.
Oh, I see Kevin's painting right there too. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I just knew it. That's beautiful. Jessica, that's awesome. Annie, beautiful. Who else is there? Hey, Jose. David, awesome. Charles, oh my God, that's beautiful. And for those who are shy, come on, put the video on. I won't judge. Nina, that's absolutely amazing. Wow.
We're still working on our tree leaves and all that.
Okay, I'll give you guys a little bit of a minute to catch up, fine tune your details. Still have some time. But so far, what I see, I'm actually quite jealous of that. It looks way much better than mine.
Riyaz is trying to make a trade, huh?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm very, very happy with how that painting is coming around.
There's what?
Is
Riyaz,
that
what
correct?
would
Did
be
you
like
paint
a landscape or
in
something that
class?
you haven't painted but want to paint in the future? Is there something like particular, like,
The landscape?
yeah, you haven't been or
Ah,
let's see, paint?
well, that's a hard question there. Yeah,
Harlem
actually,
skyline, huh?
you know what? Cityscapes. Other than a few handful ones that I've done so far, cityscapes have been very, very hard. But there are lots of details to do. I've done a few abstract kind of cityscapes here and there, but doing a sort of a fine art cityscape, very, very hard. In terms of what kind of things do I stay away from in general for painting, I stay away from portraits.
Right.
God,
You might be insulted by accident.
well, like it's a whole different study, right? To do portraits and facial features and colors and tones. It's so hard. I'm just gonna move on while you guys are kicking my ass over here because your work looks so much better. I'm just gonna move on and try and finish up some of the little bit of tree trunks over here. I won't go too far. I'll leave the trees alone before I know everyone is at the same stage.
Sorry, what are you doing now? You're taking red and what are you drawing?
Yeah, a little bit of red and black, or if you have a little bit of red and blue, very little blue. So I'm kind of making a lot of sort of a maroon color, just to mimic the sort of the contrast from the sun at the back. So kind of this color out there, sort of like the color that we used for the clouds. So this is what we're trying to imitate over here. The color distortion from the sun at the background there. A little bit of red and yellow, mostly red actually. Just to add a little bit of character to your painting. It doesn't have to be perfect, as you can see a little bit of it gets shaded off because of the brightness of the sun. So it doesn't have to be exactly the way it is. You can do a very small tree, you can do even a bigger tree if you want. And then I'll make the trunk a little bit thicker there. You don't have to fill in everything. And what I'll try and do is just with a small brush, because it's such a small area, I'm gonna go left and right, fill in little areas here and there, just to show a little bit of the, if you don't have to put too much pressure, just slowly go left and right, fill it in. And also if you're running out of paint, it's fine, it's perfectly fine, because we want to make it look like as if it's sort of fading away behind the sun. There we go. You can add some highlights if you want at certain areas. There. You can even add sort of that same color at the base of the here to show the sun reflecting off the grass. So you can here, you can do a little bit on this side of the trunk to show that little bit of brightness and shadow. And you can even go further by highlighting with black at the very edges or at the very front of the trunk. So it blends into the base there. And a little bit over there. A little bit over there. And voila. And then the last thing every painter needs to do is sign your name.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. If you guys have made a masterpiece, you have to sign your name. So I'm going to cheat and use my liner. I'm going to use that white paint. Beauty of what the liner is, it soaks up all the wetness of it. And then you can put your initials. There we go. So now